I've always admired like the way that you think, and I think that it comes from you spending so much time reading books and reflecting, and I feel like it's allowed you to have a unique perspective on life and business. And so I'm curious to know like where did that come from? Whether childhood or maybe a moment in your life, like when did this type of introspective work start like happening in your life?
Honestly, I have to say it probably goes back to high school or elementary. I think with my personality, with becoming introspective, it was more of it started happening because I actually was afraid of like what was going on around me. And so what I would actually do is that I would observe what people are doing and how they interact, especially with like adults and stuff. I started developing kind of like thinking, more reflective thinking, because I wasn't sure what people would do. And so there's a lot of uncertainty there. And I didn't really know how to like vocalize that aspect of me, especially when you're young. Like you have no clue. You're just kind of like living your life and stuff. And yeah, I think that's when I started becoming pretty introspective because it was a way to like really just kind of protect myself.
From like the outside world of what was happening in your
Yeah.
life.
Uncertainty, chaos. I don't know. Like I didn't know what was going on. I just was like, it was super overwhelming, especially when you're young. Nothing makes sense to you.
You were in like your family life was chaotic, and there was a lot going on the outside, and so you kind of used this introspection to kind of get away from all of that. How did like growing up that way, how did that kind of shape who you are today?
It was like grade 11 or grade 12 when things actually started shifting. The biggest shift happened when back then I was playing video games. I played this game called Destiny 2, and like it was really fun to play, and I was really obsessed with like achieving like really good results and just like one of the main things too playing video games that it showed me was like providing a service in exchange of something of value. I didn't know what it was exactly. I just knew I did that and people paid me. And so like I was like, okay, someone's paying me in Australia like $50 like per session, which is like an hour.
Yeah.
Essentially making $50 an hour on the weekend though, which was pretty cool. And then I was like starting to reflect. I was like, okay, like if this guy's paying me, then like what am I doing? And so then I started reflecting on like what else can I do kind of like on a bigger scale. And at this time when I was thinking of this was like summertime, grade 12, grade 11 summer, transitioning into grade 12. That's when like my parents were like separating, they were going through the divorce. And so I had a couple thoughts in my mind at the time. I was like, I have this idea and it's just an idea, so it's uncertain. It was just something I thought about how like I'm providing value, I just don't know how. And so I don't know what this is. Like I don't know if this is a job, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's working. And then there's the other aspect of like I have 1 year to figure out what to do before we move out of the adult house. And I don't know where I'm going. So I have 1 year of that pressure. I was like 15. And so then I was like, well, obviously it ain't school because I don't care, and two, I mean my grades were like so bad. I was like, I don't even want to recover this. And then that's what made me started learning how to critically think. I almost intuitively knew, I don't know why, like I needed to I needed to learn how to think first because it kind of goes back to that certainty aspect of like you're presented so many options and choices. It's like how do you know which one's right for you? It's and I say for your like for myself because it's like for other people it could be wrong just because they're a different person with a different like personality. So like it's really hard to figure out what's right for you and what resonates the most while being able to like have the wisdom to discern like it's not shiny object syndrome. Like this is like something that actually makes sense. Like it's hard to do that, but I felt like I needed to learn that. And I just called that thinking. And that's what made me dive into books and like started writing a lot. And that's what created a lot of reflective thinking. It's like thoughts to paper. And then when you read it, it's like, why does that make sense or how? And then it's just that reiteration of a lot of reps. And this is behind closed doors. No one really knows how much like I've done, but maybe like with you, Dallin, like in high school, like what was really going on was like there's the thought process of a deadline of 1 year before I move out, don't know where I'm going. I need to stop playing video games, break this habit, and start to reflect and learn. And then I also was like, how many reps do I need? Because I don't actually know when I'll get this skill. And so that was when I was sitting at Tim Hortons, journaling, writing, reading the books. I think people started like seeing me do that a lot and they were like, I don't know what they were thinking, but like,
What is this kid doing?
yeah, what is he doing? Like, why is this guy at Tim Hortons journaling and stuff? Like, but at, it's like at Tim Hortons and like going to like the library and like going back home, just like transitioning around to try to like really journal and switch environments to really try to like, I'm trying to pull something out of me. Like, I didn't know what it was. I just knew there was something there I had to pull out because I was under pressure. And so, like, yeah, that's what freaking got me.
So at basically like at 15, 16 years old, you were just cracked with this reality that like you have to be able to think for yourself. Because before then it's like you're living at home, you were living with your family. Of course there's family chaos like in any household, but for the most part it's pretty smooth sailing, right? Especially in high school. And then all of a sudden your parents get divorced and it's like, holy shit, I need to make, I have decisions I need to make. Like at fit that's honestly most 15, 16 year olds don't go through a point in their life like that until they get out of high school and they enter the real world and they're like they have these decisions that they had to make. So at 15, 16 you were like, okay, this is, I'm kind of on my own all of a sudden, and not fully on your own, but like your parents are going this way and they're not in unison anymore. So you have to kind of make decisions for yourself, and so what I'm hearing is that allowed you, that you made the decision like, I need to learn how to think for myself and how to critically think, and I'm sure that pushed you into more of a reflective state of like starting to read and learn. And so I'm to kind of go off of that, I'm curious to know, like, for anybody that could be listening to this podcast, if they are, like, what advice would you give them based on your experience in that moment when something critical happens and you have to make decisions? Just from your own experience, what advice would you give them in a moment like that?
I'm actually going through that right now. So like it's even more apparent. So I think in moments when it gets really tough and you're really questioning about like how do you navigate that? Because like the whole question to me when I hear that is like you're presented a situation where you don't know where to go because there's too many places to go. And you don't know what direction's right because you have nothing to anchor it to. This is where thinking really comes in and why it's so valuable. My advice is just like reflect really hard on like what you want and what you don't want. So when you are in situations where you want to quit or give up or switch when it's too difficult, you go back to that reason. It's even more concrete when you put it on paper. And then when you're in a difficult situation, like for myself, I am right now, right? With the business, it's tough. And so what I'll do is like, I'll actually go journal at night or morning and just think about it and reflect it and be like, this is where I am. But instead of stepping into fear and anxiety and let that spiral and become the reality of my life, I'm going to choose faith. And then faith will look like this outcome by this day. And this will happen. And I don't even know sometimes if it will. I just do it. And then guess what? For the past 5 months and like this year, it has happened every time. And so I'm now back in a situation like this. And I'm not even worried. I'm just like, okay, I just figured it out.
And so the reason reflection and thinking is so important. You're saying because if you do that reflection and you understand the real reasons behind like why, what you want, what you don't want, when you get to that critical situation, you're going to be able to weigh your decisions based on that reflection that you did in the past. And that will help you moving forward. It'll help you way more than not doing that reflection.
That's what helps you stay calm. That's what creates your patience. That's what creates your long-term understanding, right? When you don't understand something, that's when you're like almost chaotic because you don't know what to do. But when you understand it almost like 50 to 60% before because you had the due diligence to think through it, then by the time the situation comes, it's almost like a premeditated decision that's ready to fire. Like you don't need to. You don't need to like second guess yourself. It's like it's almost like you load up a bullet, you know you have a bullet, you prepped it, and so when you need it, it's there and you fire and you're done. Instead of being like, where's the ammo? Where's the bullet? Did I put my gun there? Where is it? What do I point at? It's like you answered all those questions. And so then on a like kind of like on a small scale too, it's like that can even be as simple as planning your day for the next day. Like you just schedule everything, what's a priority, what's not, what might get in the way, and then you just follow that because you thought through it. Because that's what you, once again, based on what you want in your goals, that's what you said you want. This is what you think is worth it. Then this is what you're going to have to do. And if you don't do it, I mean, you already made it so clear to yourself that you know what's right and wrong and what's good or bad.
Damn. I have a few different thoughts, like the questions I want to ask around this. One is like you mentioned faith, and I know you're a Christian man. And so I asked this coming from a place of like someone that didn't grow up religious. My parents were never religious, but I think like faith, whatever you believe in, is something that I'm actually personally like diving into and investigating. And and trying to figure out. And I see other people that like believe in God and are Christian or Catholic or Buddhist or whatever religion, and it feels like they have this sense of grounding because of it. And so I'm curious to know, like, for me to learn not even just the religious aspect of it, but more of like how does faith help you in that whole process of navigating life and critical decisions and problems that arise.
Yeah, so faith helps me stay grounded, and the way it helps me navigate life is that with faith, it's essentially like you're believing in something that's not like existing yet. Same thing with fear, right? It's like fear is something you think might happen, but it's not there. And it's like so like they're both real. Like sure, they're not real, but they both exist, you know? And so like but both words produce different energy. Like fear produces anxiety. Now you're thinking about the negative in a bad way, right? Where you start to lose control and now you get into that spiral. But then faith, just the word faith or hope itself actually inspires a different level of thinking. And so your frequency actually does increase. Just the word of itself, it's not even like, not even diving into like religion or anything like that. It's like when I hear faith, it almost is like you almost like the next line of thinking is like, it will work out. You might not know how, but it's gonna work out.
And faith is simply just the trust in believing that it will work out.
Yes. But here's the thing with faith. It's like, you know, it says in the Bible, like it says that faith without works is dead. So like we'll take entrepreneurship. When you believe in something you want to go for, right? You have that goal, it's long term. You have faith that that's what you want. That you're aiming at that. You might not be like with your eyes, like physically like looking at it, but it's more of a mental model that you create it in your head that that's what you want. And like as people, and especially as guys, like we need to aim at something and go for it. Because if we don't have any sense of security or direction. And that's what creates a lot of clarity. And so when I think of faith, it's like, okay, if that's what I want, then I'm gonna go for that. Because and it's like when you do that, you don't know the how. Like you don't know how it's gonna work out. You know why, and you pair up the why with your faith. And then when you work, you just keep that mental image of like what you want. And for some reason, call it universe, call it God, resources start to come. People start to come. Somebody starts to help you because you're open to the idea now. I think there was someone, I forgot who said this, but you can have a lot of the things you want. You just have to ask for it and you have to aim for it. To me, the lesson I learned was like a lot of times maybe we don't have what we want because we're too afraid to ask or think or believe it. Just like so many people don't even like think about it because they're like, oh, it's not possible, right? But like the people that actually are just open, we're not talking about if it will work. We're just talking about just feeling it. What is it like to hit that like level of vision or goal? And how would you feel? And just feeling it. You're not even trying to like logically solve it. It's just like, what is that like? When you do that, now your energy's like boom. And then for some reason, because your energy is actually like higher in the present moment, when you go interact with people, now they're like, well, something feels different with this person. And that kind of is related to faith energy.
Wow. Dude, thank you for sharing that. That's so cool. And that it makes me think now, and we've done the introspection. We've done the internal work. We kind of figured out what we want, what we don't want. We have faith in that goal or whatever it is. And now we have that. And now it's like, okay, we're starting a business or we're doing something. We're taking that step. We've decided we're going to aim for it, right? Now, how do you balance that, the thinking and the internal work and all that with the actual doing, the action?
Yeah. So let's say you do the internal work, right? It's a never ending process. Like you do it all the time. The next step with like, how do you go about that and take action is like, think of your faith, why, and goal as just like rocks. Like these things are, if you care about it, there's weight to it. Like that's what you want. It's what you're going to go for and you're going to do it. You don't know how, but you're going to do it. So now you have conviction and it's like, that's what I want. And so if those things are the rocks, then think of your actions as like sand or water. It's like it can flow around the rocks. It doesn't matter how you go. Like you go left, you go right. As long as you remind yourself every single day why you're doing it and what you're going towards, you can do whatever because it's so flexible because you're moving and getting pulled towards that end picture. So like action will naturally follow once you get really clear on what you want, because you will naturally start to problem solve it because you told yourself this is a priority. And like that kind of goes back to like being honest with yourself and having that level of trust and like that level of trust with your foundation. Because if you don't trust yourself, then it's like you're not going to take action. And if you lie to yourself, you're not actually going to go do it. And so then you can tell yourself and everyone else that you want this, but like if your actions aren't doing it, then it's just like maybe you don't actually want it. Maybe you want something else. It's like, and that's okay, but you just got to be real with yourself. And that's where the go back to square one, back to the basics, reflect on what you want, because once you get that done, you don't have to like hit that roadblock anymore because you've thought about it so damn much. And it takes people underestimate how much like energy it takes to really think something through. Like if you're gonna make an important decision, it takes a lot of time to think. And the bigger the problem, the more thinking you have to put, which is why people don't like thinking.
Mm. Of course, thinking is very important, and I think that's what I told you I admire about you is your ability to think on one topic and make decisions based on your own philosophies and foundations that you've built through this introspective work. But once you're actually in the game, you're doing the thing, and you have more decisions to make, like what's your mental model for navigating too much thinking, you know?
Yeah. Um, yeah, so it's super easy to get into like an analysis paralysis and like almost be overwhelmed with what decisions to make. So, sometimes when you get into that mode of like, there's too many things, you just got to simplify, like just simplify as fast as you can. It's like, okay, there's 10 decisions. Let's simplify. Which one's the top three? Too much? Okay, simplify it. Break it down into step one. Okay, is step one too big? If you're not taking action, probably is. Break that down. What does step one include? And so you just go even more narrow. And so if you have the mindset of understanding big picture vision, which is this is what I want in 3 to 5 years, but then you also understand the right perspective with going narrow and being like, this is the day to day of like, this is what I need to do every single day. If you're able to, it's a muscle. If you can practice both, then you will be able to work in the moment while knowing what steps you're taking long term.
Appreciate that wisdom. To move a little bit into business, so obviously you have a video marketing company, Frameflow Media. Hit up Isaac for any of your video marketing needs. But so you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, but you're also like very like creative, right? And so I'm curious to know, what are the connections that you see between like art and business?
Honestly, I've thought about this so much. It's like being artistic is not like thinking outside of the box, creativity, right? It's not even within business. It's not even within like they're not really different. Like it's actually just your life. Like how you live is creative. The way you do things is creative. Like you as it always comes back to you. And so like if you're tapping into your own creativity, you actually transfer that type of like sense of taste, sense of identity, sense of like who you are into everything you do, which makes it creative. And like thinking outside of the box, if you really like when I hear that, it's like, well, if there's only one you, that makes you unique. And you might not feel unique because maybe you haven't worked on yourself enough to see that. But with creativity, it's like everything you do can actually be very creative. You just need to practice that. It's a muscle. It's not something you're just born with. Like I remember when I was young, like 15, 16 years old, like I'll look at some people and I'd be like, how are they making $10,000? It's like crazy. And then you start to get creative with like, how can you do that? How can you go, like, how do you hit that goal? And you start to problem solve. But my point is like, I don't know if there is a difference. I think that creativity does come from you. And I think that the way you use it might be different. But I think if you understand the source of your creativity, like you're able to harness it and utilize it differently. And like maybe what I've been doing with my life, I don't have everything figured out. I think I've just applied a lot of self-reflection, self-awareness with understanding what my demeanor and energy is like, and then taking my basic resources, such as like my thinking, energy, what I care about, and I just use it in a way which is more like resourceful than most people.
Mm.
That's what produces like fast results. But it's not that I'm doing anything really unique. It's more like I'm just taking what I have, but I'm stretching it. You can kind of think of it like a lemon. Like some people might squeeze a little bit and just throw it away and say, yeah, that's done. Like me, I'm squeezing the damn thing. And then once I finish squeezing it, I'm like, is there any more left? And then I'll squeeze it again. And then I'm like, oh, do I need to use this? Maybe maybe do I need to use like the actual like outside of the lemon for later? Maybe it's for something else I can use, right? Like I'm thinking just like that deep with everything I do. So it creates a different level of resourcefulness.
Wow. So it really like art and creativity is in everything. And
Yeah.
so not even just business, it's in everything that you do. And it stems from, once again, that introspective work that you did. And those are like the foundational pieces. On that note, I'm curious to know, in your entrepreneurial journey, as we all know, like business can be very logical and analytical, and lots of people go about business that way. In your experience, what is something that you learned about business that is intangible, something that you can't track?
It's, I'd say, energy and culture with people. To me, when I see a number, like when I'm thinking of numbers, I think numbers are great indications, like KPIs, right, to track what's going on. But I think a lot of intangibles, which are almost the most important, is like the energy of people. It's almost doing a temperature check on everyone's mindset. Where's everyone at? Yeah, the level of faith that people have in what you decided the company should aim for. There's, I think a lot of the intangibles is like relationships with people. It's like, yes, logically it might make sense, but emotionally does it make sense?
Hmm.
You have to think about what lens you're looking at, which with what perspective.
And how would you say that intangible thing of relationships, people, culture affects the data driven logical side of business?
Yeah, so like, well, think of, so when I think of my business, I'm like, who runs the business, right? Like if it's just me, my company, it would just be me running the business, right? And so for me to make logical decisions, I need to make sure my emotional state's good. That's why everyone focuses on personal development, because they want to learn how to master their energy and state and mindset and thinking, so then they can transfer that into the logical step by steps. Business and life as well is like mindset, energy, your attitude towards solving the problem. It's not actually the problem. It's like your mindset towards it. Like the muscle you practice every single day when you make decisions. And but like yeah, going back to my business, it's like, well, like why is culture more important, or why is that like the intangibles? Well, if I didn't have my team and they didn't understand what they needed to do, then they wouldn't be able to help move the company forward. And like, yes, I can track what they're doing in terms of like tasks, right? Metrics, but it's like, do they mentally understand like the bigger picture? And do they care? And do I care about them? And do they care about me? It's like there's a lot of relationships and expectations you actually manage, as you know, like it's not just verbal, it's also the hidden expectations. And aside from expectations, there's also hidden values. There's values you say, there's values you want, there's values that you practice but might not be aligned with who you want to be right now. And so there's just so many layers. And I think that like it kind of goes back with making sure that people are good first, because they're the people, if you really care about them, they will build your business.
Wow. Okay, back to your
Yeah.
learning methodologies. You read a lot and you think deeply. What is an idea or a lesson that you've learned that's changed your view on life and business?
The lesson I've learned for myself with my personality is like, I'm okay with going slow, and I'm okay with not really comparing myself as much to other people in a negative way, because I realized that maybe I am different with the way I think. And so I have to almost approach some things differently with myself and thinking. Going slow and being methodical and doing it right is slow to other people on the outside. But that the outside's only 20%, maybe even 10. The inside is the 80% of what goes on and what produces that. And so I have learned that yeah, someone might look like they're ahead of me or doing better than me, but I don't really care that much, because I know that there's so much internal things you need to work through and like solve for yourself in your life path, that it doesn't even matter like what other people are really doing.
So you can't see the hurdles of the other person. So you can't judge your own life based on what you see them on the outside.
Totally. And it's like I think that's why it doesn't make sense. That's why you need to know yourself really well. This is why like reflecting on yourself is so important, because you need to know what makes sense for yourself in your life. Because like people will be there and tell you how to do things, but even myself, right? I have a habit of like sharing what I think is right, and even this podcast, like what I believe works. But what I do versus what someone else does is not gonna work. So like it's almost having the wisdom of who you are as a person, understanding your talents and mindset and where you came from. So when you listen to people, you're able to extract the right wisdom you need to build your life. It's like I throw you clay. It's like the clay's whatever it is. It can be in a ball, it could be flat, it could be a square. You have to mold it and see how much clay you need. Maybe you don't need the whole thing. Maybe you throw away half because it's not good, because you don't need it. And you just like merge it with yours, and then you customize it, and that's who you are. And those are your decisions, right? And then you stack that. And then over like 5, 10 years, now you have who you are because you put intention behind it.
Let's break that down. Let's put it in the perspective of somebody else's shoes. Like Isaac, I'm just coming out of high school. Maybe I'm 20 years old. I don't really know what I want out of my life, but I want something big. I'm ambitious, but I don't know what to do. I have all these ideas. Like I want to build a business. I want to do something special. I don't want to just work a 9 to 5 and do what everybody else does, but I'm stuck. What are the steps, simple steps I can take right now to start understanding myself so I can make a decision and live the life that I want to live?
Yeah, my own method and what I would recommend for people is like set aside like half a day to write out everything that's on your mind. Like with what do you think you want? Like just write it. You just need to brain dump it. Like get it all on paper. Because once you have it on paper with like what you want, what you think you want, what you don't want, I always like doing contrast. Like there's what you want and there's what you don't want. Take both ends because that's what's gonna almost add friction to the right answer for you. And so like once I brain dump, I'm now just like, okay, like out of these things, which one do I think that like I'm filtering now. I'm like, which one do I think I might like? Is that going to be sales? Is this marketing? Is this like, being an artist? Is this being like a musician? Like what do I think I like? And once I've narrowed that down to like maybe 3 or 5, then I'm like, okay, well, let me go try it. And this is where action comes in. This is where like you're not gonna know, but when you try it, pay attention to how you respond. There's going to be specific things that click with your personality. And I can't say exactly what that is because the reason why people say go get experience is because there's only so much things you can communicate verbally. And so there's a lot of intangible things that like you learn as you take action, which is why it's valuable. And so if you brainstorm beforehand about maybe the key things you think you might like, you've already almost like protected yourself from like the 80% of wasting time because you don't need to worry about anything else besides the things you think you might like. So now it's actually higher quality because you filtered it. And now when you take actions, you're going to learn lessons. What are those lessons? What are those insights? Well, that's for you to really pay attention to during your experience. It goes back to the lemon analogy. You can take someone with 3 years that will squeeze a little bit of the lemon and like throw it away. And yeah, that's 3 years. And they might tell you they got 3 years versus someone that has 1 year and they're squeezing that lemon. They're extracting all the wisdom. They're extracting all the lessons. They are high energy, paying attention to like, what should I do? And they're problem solving and they're taking notes. They're doing the internal work. They're building themselves. And like that person with 1 year, I would bet on that person than the person with 3 years. That's just like, yeah, I got 3 years. Yeah, I've been working. I'm gaining experience. Yeah. I just got out of I just got out of high school. I got a part-time job. I'm doing co-op. I'm doing internships. Yeah, it's going good. Versus someone like 1 year in and he's like, yeah, I've learned this. I don't get this. I wonder what this is. Back to the basics.
That's an idea that I love. There's this, I forget also who talked about it, but there's a guy that I was listening to, and he basically says the 10,000 hour rule is bullshit. And the reason it's bullshit is because they tell you to get out of high school, pick your career. You want to start doing something as soon as possible because you want to get those reps in. You got to get those 10,000 hours in, right? If you want to be great. But to your point, who would you pick between the person that started as soon as they're 18 to get that 10,000 hours, or the person that took a year to do reflection, figure out what they want, what they don't want, and then went ahead and almost treated those first few years like an experiment, trying out the things? Who are you going to pick? The person that did the 10,000 right away, picked the thing, or the person that took some time to introspect and try stuff?
So this is, I definitely would pick that person. And this is where investing in people, investing in companies, investing your dollar comes in. It's like, take that analogy, right? How someone was so prepared, they thought through critically thinking about like what they want. They come up with their own ideas and conclusions. And then they solidify that. Now they're like, this is what I want. I want to do entrepreneurship, right? Like now they've like really solidified that. I would always bet on that person. Even if I'm wrong, I'd still bet on that person. Because like that person is someone who has thought through their reasons versus someone who's just jumping straight in. Because what that tells me is like they're paying attention to life. They're paying attention to themselves. And those are the people, if they're consistent and can last long, because honestly, I feel like entrepreneurship in life is an endurance race, right? You never know, like you don't know the finish line. You're just going to have to run.
Well, there is no finish line.
Yeah, there's no, unless you're dead.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty well. Yeah. So an idea, and I told this to you earlier when we were talking, but an idea that's been guiding me recently is, where do I have an edge? And the reason I love that question to ask yourself is because it's like, if I tried to become a mathematician, it doesn't matter if I put 10,000 hours in, because I don't love math. I've never been that great at it, and it's just not a strength of mine. So if I tried to I was like, 10,000 hours, I'm gonna become the best mathematician in the world. I wouldn't. It doesn't matter. I could put 30,000 hours into math, and there'd be someone that put 5,000 hours, and they would still be way better than me. I could never crack the top three, right? But if I take a step back and say, okay, where do I have an edge? And then I figure that out through internal work and action, figure out what that thing is. Now, when I put those 10,000 hours in, now I actually have a shot at being the best of the world in that thing. And so it's like, if you don't spend the time to figure that out, you're pretty much wasting those 10,000 hours, and that 10,000 hour rule actually just doesn't even really apply to you anymore.
Yeah. It doesn't even apply. Like, that makes me think of Kobe. Like, in terms of dedication and focus, you need to become a master and expert at the basics, because then the basics are what creates that level of expertise on the outside. And so, like, something I've learned from Kobe is that, like, this Kobe put in not only the time, he put in the time, which first of all, not a lot of people would just dedicate that much time alone. We're not even talking about working hard. Let's just think about the time. So time, he's already above average. Now, level of dedication and focus every single day. People, including myself, will do that for a little short sprint and then fall off back to comfort. So he has intensity and he has long term. Those are two of the deadliest things to have. Being intense and focused in the moment, and doing it for such a long duration. If you just did that on anything you want to do, even if it doesn't come naturally, you will be pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to finding that edge, because it's like, that edge is what's going to spark your focus.
I feel like this episode has given like a pretty solid framework, and given some really cool ideas and perspectives on where someone should essentially start, right? And the truth is it sounds cliche, but it's like, you just got to start with you. It's got to start with that internal work. And so I want to end it off by asking you, like, what can people expect from you? What's the deeper purpose behind what you're building?
I want to be a world leader, like traveling around the world, really practicing. It's not perfect, and this is what I want to keep practicing even in my daily life, is like, how do I become a better leader for other people? How do I serve? How can I give back? And the way that kind of translates into frame flow recently that I thought about was like, right now, frame flow, all it's doing is like pulling out the unseen potential and creativity in different companies and people. And so far, I'm just starting in Vancouver, and that's what we've been doing. It's just, they got a story, they got something creative that they have, and I'm taking that and I'm molding it into a video and into a story. That's what Frameflow is doing right now. And then for my reasons, it's just becoming a leader and practicing that every single day.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited to continue to follow your journey. And where can people find you to see what you're building?
They can check me out at my Instagram. I actually forgot the Instagram tag for my business.
I'll put it in the description.
I need to update that more, but I think that's a great start there.
Yeah. So Isaac Noah on Instagram, and then also Frameflow Media is the business, but I'll link that stuff in the description.